We don't
Oh, and
zero
we're
because
live to nobody but ourselves. That's right. It's a pre-recorded podcast. Drones
all
After
thanks
Dark, Season
all
3, Episode 5 with Ted Strazimiri. We've got all our guests right here because we're facing some live studio issues, some technical difficulties.
apologize to
We're
everybody,
gonna
Bobby.
do a pre-recorded podcast. So we have here Lewis in his car, and we also have 3D modeling expert Ted Strazimiri. He's a 3D
Howdy.
modeling extraordinaire. He's also a professor, and he makes some really cool 3D models all over LinkedIn. He is a social media influencer based out of London, Ontario, and also a professor at Fanshawe College. Welcome to the
Howdy,
podcast,
guys.
Ted.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I wish people could have seen what we just went through because it was honestly exhilarating stuff.
Very
Wow.
exciting.
Wow, that was 50 minutes. We spent 50 minutes. Holy shit. Okay,
We
so
restarted
Drones After
everything.
Dark. For people that are watching, because this is not live, we still announce it. Drones After Dark, there's just 2 rules with Drones After Dark. You have to curse, and you have to drink. Well, drinking is banned. Optional now. But join us as we gossip and talk about drone-related news, and in this case, 3D modeling.
That's what we do.
At least we got some really good clips of the last 50 minutes. All those stop record, start record. Oh, we're live, we're not live.
Yeah, that
Oh, yeah.
countdown is just burned into my retinas.
It's perfect. We're gonna turn those into clips, easily digestible YouTube shorts, and post it all over the Skybrowse YouTube channel. It's just watch as co-founder and CEO Bobby Oyang struggles with software.
Can't figure out Riverside. But he created Skybrowse.
Yeah, broken clocks right twice a day.
Bobby, you code a lot, man.
Like we were saying,
every time I hear what you were up to that day, it's coding basically. Is that like 90% of your day to day?
It really isn't. It's just this new release. Just one day, I was in a phone call with Lewis, and he was harassing us about the quality of our interior maps. He was like, "Your models look like shit." I'm like, oh, thanks. I worked really hard on this, but
wow,
okay.
giving you advice is harassing you? Wow.
It's not constructive. It's just like there's floating shit everywhere. I'm like, okay, okay, I'll I'll get to it. I'll get to it. So usually the day is more meetings than anything else. Meetings with the team, meetings with partners, potential clients as well. So less so on the coding and technical side. We've got developers that build out stuff, and I think we meet twice a week twice a week for like an hour or so. It's like a long stand-up where we discuss team ideas and everything, and that's all the tech I do. But in this case, for the past 2 weeks, I've been working on improved interior mapping in my spare time. So it's coming out, well, I don't know when we're going to post this podcast, but it's coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow morning.
Could be tomorrow, could be yesterday.
Yeah.
The interior is it's hard. Like interior is just such a different beast in terms of data collection but what have you found to really make significant improvements? Like what is it? Like what's the secret sauce in getting better at interior reconstructions?
So one of the issues we've noticed is that it's less of a technical issue than anything else, but our users do not read the tutorial. So they make all these interior maps where they're pointing the camera everywhere, moving too quickly. There's a lot of motion blur and whatnot, and it's affecting the alignment of it all. So we eased up the alignment properties, the parameters, so that it'll still align even if it's really bad quality. So that also affects the rest of our algorithms as well. So now if you upload a really bad video, even from a drone, it'll still align. And it does a lot of filtration of the really shitty frames, so that gets cut out of the alignment and affects the overall quality of the model. So even if you have a bad video, it'll still turn to a 3D model. It just, in the past with the old algorithm, the 3D models just wouldn't turn out well. It'd just be like a blob. Now it's just a uglier 3D model. And once it does become an ugly 3D model, we'll automate it by sending a user an email saying, "Hey, you did this wrong. You should read our tutorial instead. Here's how you make a better looking 3D model." But yeah, as a result of that frame filtration, it also drastically sped up our 3D modeling time. So originally it was like 1 to 2 minutes per minute of footage. Now we're releasing it for our premium subscribers first. It's less than a minute per minute of footage. So if you upload a 5-minute video, it should take like 2-3 minutes to process. So I'm excited to announce that tomorrow once I get the newsletter up and running and blast it out, post on socials, do that comparison video that I showed with you. It'll be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it is insanely fast. Even taking into account the fact that you have to upload the video to your servers, you have to account for that, and it still returns that reconstruction within a few minutes. You mentioned it's faster. Is that because you're using less frames overall, or how are you kind of balancing coverage while making it faster?
It's filtering out the really bad frames.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, those frames are causing so many issues with the alignment, and we in the past, well, the video is not in front of me right now, but there will be a comparison video on social media by the time you listen to this podcast, where it is a comparison of the previous algorithm and the current algorithm. So the previous algorithm really just tried to match everything, including all the really bad and distorted frames. So you got floating blobs and holes and everything. In this case, it really blends those textures together. So try to keep it high level for our viewers. Yeah,
the textures was a huge improvement from what you showed us a second ago, which people will see. But that, you may have a fantastic mesh, fantastic model, but you have really crappy textures, and it kind of ruins all of that work that went into the model. Essentially, it doesn't really matter. So the textures are like the lipstick on the model. It really makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah, I mean early on we didn't have textures at all. So when we first launched, it was point cloud only, and a lot of our competitors, Pix4D, mentioned that we made ugly 3D models, but we just made really dense point clouds and just didn't have textures. So our point clouds were denser than theirs, but because we didn't have textures, people thought that measurements weren't accurate, the 3D models were ugly. So we added in textures, I think a couple of years back. Yeah, it's been helping out a lot. And at first, the textures were massive. Now they're just like 5 megabytes. So it's like the size of a picture on your cell phone. They're really small now. Got some great compression going on. But enough about me. What's new on your end? What kind of new 3D modelings are you working on, Ted?
Well, it's cold and snowy in Canada, and so I'm not doing much flying outside. I did have a few things towards the end of the year that was a little bit uncomfortable in terms of like the environmental conditions. I had a bridge inspection that took like 4 days. And that's, it's fun at first, and then on day like 2, you're like, I want to get out of here. I never want to look at another bridge again. So that was like back in December. December till now is nothing really, because what are you going to do? Snow's on the ground. So this is where I kind of focus on things indoors, right? Like indoor scanning. And I've been testing this handheld laser scanner from Green Valley International, the H300, and I have a few projects that I've done where I've incorporated laser scans and photogrammetry together, kind of the best of both worlds. But it really bothered me that indoor, SLAM-based, moving laser scanning, because it's unstructured. There's no, you don't really know where the scanner was when it created that section of the cloud. You can't really use it for photogrammetry because you can't connect pictures and a point cloud because they're just they live in sort of two different spaces, right? So I've been really trying to crack this problem, and I think I figured it out And part of it is software. So I don't know if some of the people that are watching this or will be watching this are familiar with the photogrammetry softwares out there, but Metashape is one that it's kind of been around forever, but it's it's more accessible. It's kind of more affordable than the rest, and it has more dials and knobs that you can turn than a lot of the other ones as well. But it's pretty hidden. Like you kind of have to go searching for it. And I saw an update, software update that was released that mentioned we can now bring in the laser scan from a mobile scanner, and also bring in the trajectory. So, as the scanner is moving in your hand and you're walking around, that trajectory is being solved. Without it, laser scanning wouldn't work. So we have that trajectory there. Metashape is now able to take that trajectory, incorporate it with that point cloud, and create normals that are referenced to that trajectory. So that's actually a pretty big deal. So if people don't know what normals are, it's essentially when you think of like a point in a point cloud, which way does that point face? Like, if it's a point cloud of this wall, is the wall facing me this way, or is the wall, or am I behind the wall? Am I like, on the inside of the wall? You don't know, you don't get that information from a point cloud. It's not like inherently there, but having that trajectory allows you to sort of reference that direction based on where you were walking, right? So if I'm walking over here and that wall's over there, then of course it faces in this direction. So from that, I was able to build normals for that point cloud, which was previously very hit or miss because it was all sort of estimated. And then the cool thing about this thing, it has an Insta360 that's attached to it, so through a 360 camera. And the trajectory plus the offset, because I actually have it right here. So the position of the scanning,
Whoa.
like the laser's going out
Wow.
here, but then the camera is up here. So as you're moving, if you're moving forwards and you turn like this, the laser's still in the same spot, but the camera just went out to the side, right? So in the software, the offset is accounted for, and then so every image that's taken here is also georeferenced to that trajectory. So having those two things together, playing around with those sort of references, I was able to create the normals, create that mesh from that point cloud, but then also position the cameras within that mesh so that when I want to texture it, I'm texturing from those positions and it all just aligns. So I've been working on that. That's kind of got me really excited because I love photogrammetry, but it struggles indoors unless you're really being careful with it, like we were just saying. And laser scanning kind of takes care of that, right? If it's a reflective surface, you can still get a flat surface out of it, whereas photogrammetry, the reflections are like kryptonite. It's not like for everybody. These things are expensive, and there is steps to get this done. But it is promising because I scanned a large section of our school in like a 20-minute walk, and to get the similar type of scan, similar type of accurate result with just photogrammetry would have taken like weeks or days. It would have been almost impossible, essentially. Like you would never really go through all that work just to get that. So that combination of the two is kind of interesting. Having the textures, like we were just saying, like having the textures there is really pretties it up. I think that could open up, possibilities for virtual tours, for VR content, things like that. Not useful for inspections, but if it's a larger area, I think it's probably the easiest way to do it versus buying a very expensive terrestrial laser scanner and then moving that tripod around and putting targets everywhere. All right, that's kind of like another level, but this could be somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I mean, it was just a
These
software
cases are
update.
great.
Yeah, there are.
Wow.
And I like point clouds versus meshes. Honestly, point clouds kind of horrible to work with. Like they're just so like they're just humongous. There's just way more information there than you ever need. If you just want to visualize a space or keep a record of a space, a mesh is better in my opinion. So that's kind of the in between, is using those point clouds, but then still getting something that's mesh out of it.
Yeah, yeah. For interior scans, I know in the state of Florida as well as California, those are the two that I've talked to recently. For school safety, active shooter situations, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of state funding is going towards school districts and local governments so that they have plans for their schools, like 2D maps at least. And there's some companies also doing 3D of interior spaces of
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I thought of that because the area I scanned was a part of our school, and so for like an emergency planning use case, it's pretty amazing because you can share it with a wide group. Maybe there's an event coming, and you can sort of include this in an email for the event, and users before they come, they can open it and sort of become familiar with the space, at least have some idea of what to expect when they get there. I think that's probably one of the most interesting use cases is that emergency planning scenario. But I'm sure there's other commercial uses for this. Indoors I think is a big market. There's a lot of need for reality capture in indoor spaces, but you can't make it that difficult. Like, sure, the laser scanners aren't new, but the process of combining laser scans and having nice textures associated with them is a pretty cumbersome process and expensive. Like, the tools are super expensive. Like an RTC 360 is like 80 grand, and
Wow.
that's like that terrestrial laser scanner on a tripod. And I don't think it's really going to change. I think that class of laser scanning is always going to be expensive because there's always going to be a market that's willing to pay for it. But stepping down into like these SLAM-based payloads and sort of handheld stuff, you're seeing a lot of those kind of enter the market now. I don't know if you're familiar with like the Livox Mid 30. It's this sort of half dome little scanner. It's made for robotics. But I'm seeing a lot of these handheld SLAM laser scanners that just have that on top. It's like a $200 laser. And so it's coming down a lot. It's going to be much more accessible. But ultimately, what do you do with that point cloud? It's still a point cloud. Like, it's still, a million points, and it's just noisy. There's cleaning that you need to do. So if you could have a way to sort of simplify that process, but then still get a result that's reasonable and better than other methods, I think it's pretty useful.
Would the results be the same if you use like a small like a Nevada and then use Skybrowse? Would the results be similar? Not as great, but
I think it depends on like the area, like the room, the area, like the size, Bobby probably can explain this way better than I can with how Skybrowse would handle it. But ultimately, photogrammetry, you need to have coverage. You need to have really good, methodology for the data collection, and that's pretty straightforward when the room is a decent size, like a residential room. But when you get into like large commercial spaces with a lot of glass, a lot of shiny floors, metal, all these things, they start to really add up and become much more difficult to handle. So if you're really good at collecting, you could scan basically anything and get a decent result out of it in Skybrowse. But you have to kind of go into it knowing how to collect that data, how to move that drone around. I think like the Avata is an amazing use case you guys have come up with. Just video, right? Like, just video, first of all, amazingly easy, but then the Avata also very easy to fly indoors.
yep.
And then you can do that data collection. It brings that barrier down. So that's what we need more of. We need more of simplified data collection, because a lot of the processing, those problems have kind of been solved mostly. But the data collection always is on a case-by-case basis on the user, on the person doing that. And if they know what they're doing, the results are going to be usually fantastic. But if you're not really thinking about how the software works, then you're going to get into situations where the data is not going to work either.
Yeah, yeah. With the DJI Avata, I really like the Avata because it can get the exterior of a building and then fly inside and capture the interior as well. And in
Yeah.
our 3D model viewer, we enabled backface culling, so you can essentially see through walls and see through like the ceiling, for instance. So you can see the exterior of the building as well as zoom in into the interior as well. So it's it's really amazing what some of our end users have made. Some of the stuff I can't share because it's active
Of course.
investigations and whatnot. But one was a structure fire that was flown outside. They just did a circle with the Nevada and then flew inside and recorded a video just inside. The entire video was 6 minutes long and got both the
Yeah.
outside, the damages on the outside, as well as the inside. It's mind blowing. It's in a 6 minute video. I don't think that exists. In terms of data collection, just being able to capture that and turn that into a 3D model in another 6 minutes or so, it's really amazing. So we're gonna do some tests on it. I've already talked to the owners of the rock climbing gym that I go to map out some of the outside and inside. Give it to them for marketing purposes, but also use it for our purposes as well. I think it's gonna be really, really cool. Just being able to see the outside and inside in one model as well. Just one continuous video. So
It's
really
gonna
stoked
it's
to
gonna be
see
like
it.
it's gonna be like those cool like flying drone videos or SPV videos that they do for businesses. Except now you're gonna be able to do like a 3D model of the inside. That's actually gonna be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
actually really difficult to do, right? To do that without something that can just ingest that video and spit that out. To do that with like standard photogrammetry software, it can be very challenging because that gap of where you enter from outside into inside is such a small area, and there's just so few things that are matchable between the moment before you get into to when you're in, that most photogrammetry software just will basically kick that back and not give you a reconstruction. So I was really impressed with Skybrowse. You created an account for me, and I threw in video that we recorded for that bridge inspection I just mentioned. That was early or later the end of the last year, and that video was not intended for 3D reconstruction at all. Like bridge inspections, the way that I do them, and the way that I've found that the people that are watching them on the other end prefer them to be is just straight up hit record when the drone takes off, stop recording when the drone lands, and in between just go from area to area and just look at it up close. So that is probably the worst way to collect video or data for 3D construction, because I'm not even paying attention to overlap. I'm not making sure I'm going over things in a different angle or direction. And I threw that in, and it came out with like one component, like one single piece of that bridge, which I was not expecting at all, because it's dark under there. It's a disaster in terms of data set for this type of thing, but it worked. And like as once this starts getting really straightforward, and sort of some of the elements, because they're thin, like some of the structural elements are really thin lattice structure, they kind of don't appear. The whole structure is generally there, but the fine elements are not. Once it gets to a point where that does get reconstructed as well, that would be the preferred way to share that information with these inspectors, because they have that 3D model for navigation, for context, like what part of the bridge am I looking at, but then they have the video, the ground truth for actual inspection. So I'm excited about that. I really think, I'm sure you're probably working on stuff, but I'd love to see sort of where the cameras were sort of the camera frustrums, and then maybe even like a trajectory of like how the drone navigated around, because that actually gives you a lot of context as well as to what you're looking at, because it all starts looking the same. So those two things, they're there. Like you have that information because you're reconstructing it, but I would see a lot of applications in inspection and structural inspections with the Skybrowse with those two features, as well as just how good it is at bringing in data that isn't even meant for that.
Yeah, we thought about putting it into our 2D map, so it shows like a essentially like connected line of the drone's flight path to generate the 2D map itself. I thought it might be interesting for interior mapping, specifically for like tactical applications, see where the drone flew to capture all that data. But we haven't found too much demand for it on the public safety side. So, if there's no demand for it, we either don't build it or we just remove it from our platform altogether. That's why there's no volume measurement tool. There's not a lot of demand for volumes in Skybrowse. You don't need to figure out the volume of a car crash, for instance. Same thing with our GPS tool. We had like a longitude latitude picker in our in our system. We just got rid of it because nobody was using it. So there's just no need for it. It just seems like people would rather just export the LAS file from the point cloud from our system and use other softwares
Do it
for
somewhere
it.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you want like the cleanest UI you can get, right? If it's not really getting a lot of clicks, don't keep it there. Is that kind of the ideology?
Yeah, yeah, that's the gist of it. Try to keep it as simple as possible. Just
Simplifying Skybrowse.
yeah,
Yeah.
keep it easy because I mean we have so much data from the video. We're using every single frame of the video, and that's how we're able to get the interiors done really easily and quickly. But also, it also allows for matching going from the outside of a building to the inside
Yep.
as well, really, really well. So we're able to, so far, evolve the data of like flying on the outside and then going inside. It's reconstructed all of that successfully. So the way I see it is in the future, we're just going to be able to accept every single video out there. It doesn't matter how shitty the video is, it's going to turn into a 3D model. And really
Yeah.
stoked for that.
Yeah, that's kind of like the ultimate situation is you just don't even worry about how you collect the data and then just put it in there. Have you looked at like the Apple spatial video, the way that they're handling that? Because I feel like there's something interesting about that, having depth information. I don't know. I was just thinking about that earlier today. It's like they have multiple cameras here, so they kind of have stereo. So that's probably how they're doing it. I know they're using the ultra wide and the normal lens. But I wonder if that really starts to catch on, the first place we're going to see that improvement or that technology is going to be in our mobile devices. So it's not even like we really have to worry too much about the technology getting to that stage because the cameras are going to also improve at such a they're going to get closer to us as well for what we need for reconstruction. It'd be really interesting if there's anything that can be done with that as is today, or if there's any sort of anything that could be unlocked from that.
Well, we are talking about the advents in 3D modeling. So Apple Vision Pro came out. A few companies have already launched apps for it. One of them is another 3D modeling company called Polycam. And I saw some of the reviews of Polycam on the Vision Pro, and it seems like for the most part, it's just making 3D models and showing the 3D models on the Vision Pro.
Yeah.
So, at least from a first glance, it seems like there's very little application to it besides just making a cool 3D model and showing it in augmented reality. So, I could be wrong, but I just don't see too much application on it. Maybe you see something that I'm missing here.
I'm kind of on the same boat. I mean, it's one thing I wonder is like, is it going to be cool with like the safety people for people to be walking around with like headsets on, like on a job site? I don't know, Lewis. Like, what do you think? Like, is it are you going to be allowed to even walk around with this thing?
I don't think so. I think it's if you're stationary, obviously, but you see these videos, these people are walking around with it, and it just doesn't. Something's going to happen, right? It just seems like it's extremely risky, and you're going to there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to implement it into certain jobs, and I think they're going to be told they can't do it. But I don't know. I just there's something about it that you're walking around with it, and you don't know what kind of screens are up on it. What's obstructing your vision?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's cool to sit at home on a couch with, and you're gonna have a big screen TV in front of you. But as far as that walking around, I don't know. I don't see many applications.
Yeah, because I mean, on a construction site, to even step foot on a construction site, bigger ones, you have to do like orientation and write
Right.
like a quiz, like PPE. There's people on you about that all the time. Like, I can't see that being, the full headset covering your eyes being cool with the health and safety people in those situations. I feel like that's going to be a big barrier for the AEC world, in the field with these headsets. Could that be similar for law enforcement or for like accident scenes? And these aren't exactly safe spaces, right?
No, they're not. I don't think there's be any applications for law enforcement. I guess at some point they can come out where they can lock, certain areas of the screen, right, where you can have, you know, something showing up on the side, but your main area of vision is clear. But that would mean that there would have to be programmed to be like that, where you can't unlock, the placement of the screens on it. But yeah, I don't think in law enforcement, I don't think we're going to see that, being used. Just don't see
Yeah,
application for it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
I
I
agree.
think it came out first and foremost as a consumer device because that's what Apple devices are. Just
Hmm.
they're primarily consumer devices. They don't do too much B2B stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe there's an
Oh,
application in the future, but right
yeah.
now it seems like HoloLens, Microsoft's AR, VR headset is getting the most enterprise usage, with the contracts with the federal government and whatnot. A lot of it's just for training purposes, and that's it. Just it's cool to have like a 3D model of a training zone. You can see people interacting in it. That's about
Right.
it.
I can see that application, like, for, simulators, right?
Yeah.
And we have that already,
In a
but
room, like at the
right.
office, in a place. Yeah.
Right. So I could see for like, especially in law enforcement, for simulator training, I think it's useful, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put TAC Browse into the Vision Pro. So TAC Browse, it's the ultimate vision of Sky Browse, creating Sky Map. So we first have really easy and quick 3D modeling. Then we
Mhm.
have a location tracker that puts you in the 3D model itself. And then we have the third piece, which is Midnight Sun, which live streams any video and then detects people and objects in the video and puts them
Yep.
onto the 3D model. So if we put that all onto the Vision Pro, then you can kind of like put on a headset and see like a virtual environment with the satellite base layer, the
Mhm.
3D model of say like a building for a SWAT entry, and then everybody just move around in the 3D model. So it'd be like a simulated environment of the
But that,
live scene.
what would that be useful for? Like the incident commander would have that on and would kind of like see everything going on.
Yeah, yeah. As opposed to radio communications or looking at live streams, now you have full spatial awareness of the entire scene that you can move, pan, and see both the indoor and the exterior of a building.
Yeah, let's try it, Bobby.
Okay, okay.
Let's go. Order one right now. Let's go.
A Vision Pro,
Yeah.
right? We would need so many iOS developers for that. That would be
Yeah.
a lot. I think we'll start easy. Let's just do a mobile app that records video and uploads directly to Skybrowse.
Yeah.
Something that's just, instead of having to
Simple.
open up your camera app, recording, go to Skybrowse, and uploading that video, it just does it automatically for you.
On open the app, starts recording, doesn't even ask you. It just assumes, right? Yeah, speed's a big thing for you guys. Like I have the luxury of time. I don't need to like turn around to scan right away. I can take my time with it. For me, there's still a lot of sitting in front of a screen clicking things. I was really hoping I got a Quest, like a Meta Quest, and I was really hoping I could do some of that work in VR because it's having that depth perception and going in and cleaning up a point cloud or adding control thing like that. That would be amazing, but there's like zero support from any of these 3D apps that are softwares that support VR. I've been trying to figure out an easy way to get point clouds in there, just to have it to even show people, and it's really shocking that there's nothing, just plug and play, like an app. But yeah, did you? I guess your models, what Skybrowse creates, are actually very lightweight, right? There's not a ton of triangles. There's not a ton of everything is just so light. It would be perfect because you don't even have to really do anything to those models to get them, in a format to view in something like a headset. But
Yeah, you can
I
export
guess
the textures as OBJ files, so it's pretty straightforward to get it into the system. And we've done like overlays with it. So I forgot what software it was, but there was a software where you could just import OBJ files. So we just downloaded one from Skybrowse, imported it, and just overlaid it in the real world. So exactly where it was. So that's the gist of it. I mean, again, it goes back to the Polycam thing. Like it's cool, but
yeah.
what's the actual use case for it?
Who's going to pay for this? Right, like
Just cool tech.
that's yeah, it is. It is a lot of this stuff. If you get really into the weeds, it's really cool. But then at the end of the day, somebody's going to be asking for it, and somebody's got to pay for it. So luckily from having when I get to put on like my academic hat on and go and teach, I don't have to care. I don't really care about anyone really needing it, commercially, and I get the time to dive in and go deep on it. But yeah, ultimately, we gotta have a product that makes sense.
Well, speaking of big payments, I heard Epic Games bought out Reality Capture a while back.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, reality capture has always been kind of suited for like 3D assets. Like it's got it's got a lot of options within it. You can do a lot of advanced things. But it's never had sort of like that mapping survey vibe to it. That was kind of introduced later on in a fairly recent release. So Epic going in there and picking them up kind of makes a lot of sense. A lot of assets in video games now are photogrammetry based. So I can see how that worked in their favor. I guess we'll see. I think Epic also recently had a pretty big reduction in workforce, but at the end of the day, video games are going to need assets, and scanning is a lot easier than paying 3D modelers to make something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, scanning is only going to get easier and easier. I mean, right now people can do it on their cell phones, and it's just going to get better, quicker, faster. Hopefully, we pave the way for it. Or we kind of copied their business model, the paper model thing, where
The
you can just
yeah.
unlock models just by paying a couple bucks.
Yeah. So how does that work? Is it based on the length of video you upload and that kind of is the input?
Yeah, it's the size of the output. It's a function of the size of the output. That's how much you're going to pay for the model. It starts at $3, based off of like a small model. And if you're looking to, do survey purposes, then you pay more for that. Like
Yeah.
mapping out larger areas. So, yeah, that's the gist of how it works. But I heard that there was some drama going on behind the scenes with the reality capture buyout.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a little bit inside baseball, but I was talking to a guy and he was basically explaining his side of the story about how he had sort of started reality capture as we know it today, and then sort of there was a little bit of feuding inside internally with founders and early employees. And it sounded like some of the employees that were first brought on to work on that project basically took the IP, took the the core software, and started a company that today is Reality Capture.
Yeah.
Drama, but I mean drama for 3D nerds, like six of us that really look at that kind of stuff. But I think I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time, but I think it's super interesting. And then, Epic getting involved, that kind of, there's a big gorilla that's involved in that dispute now. So I hope it turns out well for him. But he had some pretty convincing evidence. He showed me some of the sort of the history, some documents early on. He even has been reaching out to Epic and unsuccessfully litigating this. But I was hoping that he could come in and talk to you guys because I'd love to hear like a uncut raw version of his story. It must feel pretty gutting to be on that end of it.
And we love drama at Skybrow, so
Drones After Dark?
maybe
No, it's going to be 3D modeling after dark. It's going to be all 3D modeling from here on out.
maybe we'll
Yeah.
figure out Riverside by then. What do you think, Bobby?
I don't know. You should give it a go. You should be the producer, produce these
No,
shows.
I'm too busy rock climbing, dude. Can't do it.
Tough, tough.
I even have a separate profile for my rock climbing. Did you know that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Got a lot of followers, got a lot of views.
yeah.
Well, fun fact. So, okay, that profile's supposed to be private, by the way. It's
Oh,
not
I
supposed
was.
to be
Oh, oops.
shared to Skybrowse. But yeah, yeah. I use that as like editing for editing practice. So I edit videos using CapCut, and I'm using it to like practice my video editing for Skybrowse as well. Cut
A lot of good
videos real
falls
quick,
on that.
save all the presets. Yeah.
Is this on OnlyFans? We're talking about.
I got a
Oh,
premium subscription where you get to see my bruises. A lot of leg bruises.
did you just get into like rock climbing, like no experience, just dive in, or did you do it
No,
before?
no, it started like 4 years ago, back in 2019 or so. So, wow, almost 5 years ago. Um, and I took a 1 year break in between because of COVID and everything. But I was in Dubai working with Dubai police, and I got real sick of Dubai because it was the summertime. I was there for 2 months. It's clean, like way too clean. And at the time, before going to Dubai, I was living in New Jersey, so I was like, oh, what reminds me of New Jersey? What is sweaty, smelly, and gross? Ah, rock climbing.
Wow.
Let me take that up. So I started going 2 times a week in Dubai just to just get out of the Dubai cityscape and just work out. So really got into it. Went back to New Jersey,
Wow.
found a rock climbing gym, and started taking it up instead of powerlifting. Because before then, I powerlifted for like 5, 6 years. I was just like a big ball of muscle, and eventually I just got bored of it because it was just the same thing every single day. Whereas rock climbing, there's more problem solving and there's a lot more
You
of the social aspect compared to the gym. Because at the gym, everyone's got their headphones in, nobody's
Yeah.
saying a single word, doing their own thing. Whereas rock climbing, like you don't even know somebody and like cheer them on, and it feels great. It's fun.
you should
And you get to meet a
make
lot
sure
of
you let
people.
Bobby, make sure you let everybody know that this is interior rock climbing, right?
I do exterior rock climbing as well. We climbed
Yeah, that
a
pro
5,000 foot mountain in
that that
Squamish. That took 10
that's
hours.
that secret
Wow.
profile you have is all interior rock climbing, dude.
There's no exterior rocks in Dallas. This is a desert over here.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I can do it. I'm built like I did a lot of weightlifting, and I'm built. I'm just so boxy and like short arms. I don't know. It also kind of doesn't. I don't, is it? It does it get fun, or is it really tough in the beginning, and then eventually it's like something that's fun to do because there's people around that, and you don't sort of feel like you're really bad at it. What's the like? What's the X factor? Where does it get really exciting? Is it being
I think
really
it's
up
the
high?
progression aspect of it.
Progression.
Just learning like different rock climbing moves,
Mm,
figuring out body positioning. It's less
mm,
so, just the number that you're trying to reach, and more
mm.
about different moves and
You
training regiments and everything.
you you can definitely see a progression in that profile. Ted, I'll send you the link to his a secret to his secret IG account for rock climbing.
Oh, I'm looking forward to
You
this.
you could see where it all started and where he's at now.
Have you scanned any of the rock faces that you're climbing to pre-plan to get in there and just know like where you're gonna throw your arms up?
That's
Yeah,
why he
yeah, we
wants to
made some
fly the
models.
that's why he wants to fly the drone inside the gym so he can pre-plan his routes,
Yeah,
his climbing.
No, you just need a 10-second cell
it's
phone
cheating.
video. That's all you need. Nothing else. Keep it simple.
That's great.
Yeah.
I went to Yosemite for the first time in October. I was driving through there, and it's crazy. Like you can hear these rock climbers like up on El Cap, like halfway up. It takes like 2 days to get up there. Someone told me.
Wow.
Like, but you can hear them talking to each other because it just echoes, and it's just big valley, and you're like thousands of feet away, but you can hear this whole conversation. But it's terrifying. I'd never do it. I don't know.
Yeah, ropes are. I started off doing ropes, and I stopped doing ropes just because I had a few sketchy falls where
Hmm.
I almost ate it. Probably wouldn't have been pretty. So just sticking to bouldering now. It's easier. You're not climbing that high off the ground. You're like maybe 10, 15 feet off the ground. So, and the mats are soft, so it's nice and relaxing. It's a good way to de-stress at the end of the day.
The
Just go to the
the
gym, hang out with
mats.
your friends.
Yeah, you got to get some bruises in for the OnlyFans page, anyways. So
Of course, of course. I invited Lewis to rock climbing, and the first thing he said was no. Absolutely not.
Better things to do, man.
got Avadas to fly.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Did you do any
Yeah.
flying today, Lewis?
Yeah, actually I got some new lighting for the Avata, so I gave that a shot. And I messed around with the drone sensor live stream, so now I can no, so now you can live stream from the Avata, which is pretty cool. So you can send it anywhere, just like with any other, you know, anything else that you do with drone sense in a drone. And now you can do it from the Avata. So it was cool. I actually rushed to jump on this podcast that never went live. It, I was actually flying the Avata, but I'll upload those videos probably at the same time that Bobby makes his video go live or something. But
Eventually.
it's such a fun drone to fly, like it easy. Like
Mm.
I don't I don't know if there's ever going to be an FPV drone that's so easy to fly with the Avata with the motion controller.
Yeah, is that what you use, the motion controller?
I've gotten used to the yeah with the Avata. Yeah, I think I've gotten so used to the motion control that it's probably the easiest way to fly it for me.
That's
I
fine.
know there's people out there that like the controller more than the motion controller, but for what I do with it, I think the motion controller is perfectly fine.
Is it fine indoors with no GPS with a motion controller? I think I heard someone say that it's a lot more difficult if you don't have the FPV controller indoors. But I don't know. I've never
No,
flown one.
it has all the directional sensors, right? So, and with the motion control, it stays stable. You let go of it, it stays there. Yeah, so no, it's definitely a fun drone to get. I know a lot of people that even with my work one, they fly it and then they go and they buy one for themselves,
Mm,
and they have nothing but good things to say about it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've been flying drones for like 9 years now, and after a few years, flying drones is all the same. Like drones, like slightly better. Maybe the camera's a little nicer, but at the end of the day, you're just
Mm,
flying a drone. But when I got a Nevada, right when it launched, went to Best Buy and got one. Oh man, it completely changed the way flying drones is. It's so much fun
mm,
flying it indoors. There's a pickleball court, like I don't know, quarter of a mile away from me. So sometimes I'll just go on the rooftop, fly a Nevada over to the pickleball court, see if there's any people playing, and if there's not, then I'll get on over there. It's a lot
yeah.
easier that way, than having to actually walk on over and seeing there's, all the courts are booked and walking back.
Yeah, it's probably due for an update soon. I'm sure there's like a new one probably around the corner, but because it's been out
Well,
for like 2 years.
no, in DJI though, yeah, there's probably going to be something coming out, right? But no, they've come out with the motion control that has the reverse, right? So they've done slight updates.
Mm,
We're what on motion controller 2 or something, I think that they have now.
Hmm.
Where the newer one has reverse built into it. The buttons are a slightly different than the original. But yeah, there's probably gonna be something coming out. It would be nice if they made like an enterprise Avata. That
mm.
would be something that throw like a small thermal camera on it. But I don't know. I don't see if they didn't do it with the mini. I don't think they're gonna do it with the Avata.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember rumors about the Mini having an enterprise variant, but that never seemed to happen. Who
I think
knows?
it just pushes them too much into the military territory that they
Mm,
wouldn't want. Like, currently people are dropping grenades using Mavic 3s, and they already have a very strong stance against that because DJI is a consumer company first, enterprise second. So these enterprise demands don't matter as much to them, just like Apple.
Right.
So they
Because
don't
I
want to
I've
build something that could be construed as, oh, this Chinese company is building military equipment. Look at this tactical drone that they built for tactical purposes to, spy on people and do bad
yeah.
things.
No, I listen. Since the first mini came out, I've been asking them. Is there going to be an enterprise one where we can get some thermal, or even if they want to put like a small thermal camera on it, maybe like built-in lighting already, right? Like
Mm,
where you don't have to buy, something that's built in that you could just press a button on the controller, the LEDs turn on, and the response was always the same. They don't see an advantage into producing it. They're making enough money with the consumer version of it, or it is a consumer drone that it doesn't make any sense for them to spend money making an enterprise model. But it would be cool because you even with the Avata today, I was flying it. You have to stop. You have to turn the LED lights on, right? And you have to send it out. And then what if you mid-flight you decide that you don't want the lights on, right? Now you have to bring it back to turn them off. You can't do it remotely.
mm. Oh, you mean the lights that you added? Those
Right,
the
right. The added
attachments,
ones. Right,
right?
right, right. The added ones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people will find a way to use it for enterprise purposes, even if it is just a consumer device, right? So it's like, do they even need to bother? Because you'll find a
Right.
way. Attachments will come out, and et cetera. Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
enterprise thing. I mean, what's the difference? Enterprise, consumer, they're kind of the only difference is that enterprise needs more support. And consumer, you can kind of open up a ticket and respond to them in a couple of days. It's not a big deal. That's really the only difference in the drone world between enterprise and consumer, other than the payloads. Like I don't know. That always kind of confused me a little bit. It's at the end of the day, it's a flying camera. So does it really matter what the label is as long as you can get it to work for what you need?
Right. The payloads being the biggest difference, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the payloads. Speaking of which, I got a chance to look at some Skydio X10 thermal data, and dude, that FLIR boson plus that they put in that thing is incredible. It's the best, 512 640 thermal that I've seen. It's so sharp, so sensitive. That thing's going to be amazing for law enforcement, even for mapping. That just thermal is just so difficult to create reconstructions with because it's just so grainy and resolution isn't there. But I was really impressed by that thing. I think people are going to be excited.
Oh, do you have one?
Well, a lot of people are going to be forced to have to buy the Skydio, so
There it is. There it is. We're going into the
That's
politics.
that's it.
that's one
That's
way.
it. It's shifting. It's shifting. It's
Yeah.
shifting. It's shifting. Yeah, I'm not even going to get started on the Skydio because everybody knows how I feel about them. But listen, if they can, I'm not against them. Producing a great product, and I think that's what we need. If they just stop lobbying so much and they put all their efforts into producing a good product, I think everybody will make out from it. But yeah, they don't like me over there, so
Oh,
I
they
don't.
don't. It's here's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm in Canada. I don't care. We don't have to deal with any of that stuff up here. But it's like I guess the lobbying. It's a means to an end. It's available. So if they can afford it, I can't blame them for trying it.
Right.
It's a gamble. Might be costly and yield no returns, or it might turn out to be exactly what they want. Either way, I think at the end of the day, if the product's good, the product's gonna speak for itself. What I've seen from that sensor is pretty impressive. I'm used to like the DJI XT series, XT2, those ones. They're
Right.
always great. But then when DJI switched over to their own self-built thermal sensors, I don't know who makes them exactly, but the files were just never the same. And even just using them in photogrammetry software, getting radiometric values out of them was always this sort of like little hack that you had to perform to get that data out of there. I kind of gave up on it and stuck to the XT that I had to get the data when I needed it. But it's worthwhile. If these thermal cameras get really great and really small and drop in price, I'm all for it because for law enforcement that thing is a game changer for sure.
Yeah, the issue is I was talking to a sheriff's office in Florida, and for reference, Florida has an entire country of origin ban where you can only fly blue SUAS, which means that all the agencies that purchase DJI drones, Autel drones, and other drones have to give them up. Fortunately, I learned recently that the state of Florida is actually doing a buyback. So these expensive drones are getting bought back for basically how much they paid for it. So
Oh wow.
Wow.
it's they lose no money. So fortunately, it's all good because public safety is very respected in Florida.
Are they
Have
going to
all the
sell them?
budget back. But
Are
what
they going to
I've
sell them at a
noticed
discounted rate? Are they going to sell them at a discounted rate now?
for the state of Florida, I think they just buy
No,
them
for
back.
outside of Florida, right? So the state of Florida, what are they going to buy them and destroy them?
I'll buy some.
Basically, I mean,
That's what.
that's about it. Because I was
That's
talking to the
ridiculous.
sheriff's office, and I was like, "So, can I buy a dragonfish from you?" And there's like, "No, the state of Florida is just paying us $100,000 for it." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." good for you.
Wow.
But they've been
They're
looking
gonna,
at other drones, and they're like, yeah, no other drone manufacturer provides all these features that DJI does at these rock bottom prices. We've evaluated a bunch of them, and we're forced to choose the ones that kind of suck the
right.
least.
It's you got to remember it's the price. They're reliable, right? Um, and I think that's the payloads are great. If you're going to be doing inspection stuff with it, right? I agree with you, Ted. Probably the Skydio is probably going to be a better drone, right? Especially if you're going to be doing for inspection services, but for public safety with the payloads that both DJI and Autel offer, I don't think there's anything close to that yet.
So I mean, I'm not in the public safety world. I think I understand it, but it feels to me like the killer thing that you want is good battery life, like long flight time, and like solid link, like solid
Exactly.
transmission, right?
Yep.
OcuSync, like O3 or O4, whatever it is today, I don't think anyone's going to get close to that for like a decade. That transmission protocol and just everything that they got going on there is just so good that you can't even compete with it really. Am I right? Like, is that like the big killer feature? Is just having a stable connection, not really worrying too much about that, flying the drone as far as you need to, and just being up in the air as long as you need to.
No, 100%. But you got to remember too, it's the battery life, right? It's the cost. Um,
Yeah.
because now, when you're forced to pay double the price, right, for something that's extremely inferior to what you're using, that's where the issue is, right? And that's where, their lobbying efforts, they're getting results, right? Because they're, now they're, state of Florida, they have to buy, and I've heard stories of agencies in Florida just to stick it to Skydio, they're just buying Parrot drones, right? They're buying the Anafis.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, hey, if I'm gonna have to buy something, at least I'm gonna buy somebody that's not, messing up the whole drone industry for public safety. Um, so yeah, but the connection, yeah, you're right. The OcuSync it's amazing, right? And yeah, there's probably not going to be anybody close to it for a long time.
Yeah, even like OcuSync 1 on the Mavic Pro from like 2018 is
Yeah,
hard to match today. It's insane, right? But
Yep.
yeah, I don't
It's
know.
also the
Hopefully that.
software itself. The
Yeah.
software for DJI just it seems like the sheriff's office was mentioning that the software is just it's easy to use.
Hmm.
There's other drone manufacturers out there that made clones of the M300, for instance, but
Hmm.
it just
Hmm.
doesn't fly as well because the user experience, the software itself of actually
Yeah.
using it, just isn't there. So it just becomes hard to use, and it's more prone for user error.
Hmm. Yeah. I think kind of the lack of autonomy is almost a feature because it just works. Like you don't have to worry too much. Is it in the right conditions? Does it see that telephone pole? Maybe, but just don't fly near the telephone pole.
yeah,
It's like an AK-47, right? Like it's rugged. It'll just turn on and work, and less features like you were saying with Skybrowse. People aren't using it. Take it out. That's fine. Just simple mission planning. That's good enough. If it's good enough and it works, it
it's
works.
it's got to be reliable. Just today we had a barricaded subject, and it's been rainy. It's been pouring in Jersey the last few days, right? And today was just bad, and we had to keep overwatch of like two or three windows on the second floor of this building, and it's like downpour, and we're like, yep, we'll send up the M30. And the thing flew for like, I think we brought it down a bunch of times. I think we were up in the air for about 3 hours. And you bring it down, you fold it up, you put, obviously you wipe it down, pack it away. If you have to use it, 4 or 5 hours from now, that thing's gonna fire up again. There's not gonna be any issues with it.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably another one of the big key features is the fact that it's so reliable, right? It's
Hmm.
the IP ratings, IP 65, I think it is. So it's got really good IP rating, and it's just that once you turn it on and everything's on and ready to go, that it's gonna perform just like you want it to.
Hmm. Hmm.
Man, Lewis, if you love the Chinese so much, why are you so mean to me?
That's
I'm
Chinese
not.
Just the love for
technology.
Skybrows. Dang.
I'm not mean to you, dude. You're just extremely sensitive. I think that's what the problem
Okay.
is.
Oh, you got me there. Got me there. I'm just soft.
The feelings card.
Yeah, her feelings. Dude, I'm sorry I told everybody about your secret Instagram account. I good thing this isn't live because you can edit this out so nobody will ever know that we talked about it.
That's why you keep on saying Instagram over and over and over again. You mentioned it. I'm not editing this. This is going straight out.
Wait, you can't.
So
I don't think you can call it Instagram. I think now you call it what, IG or something like that. That's what all these it used to be Instagram, then it went to Insta, now it's IG. I don't know what's next.
I?
I the gram. I don't know.
No clue.
Oh.
No clue.
KG.
Good job. All right, let's wrap it up. Ted, thanks for coming on. Do you have any shout outs? Any promotions you'd like to mention?
No promotion. I don't know. I hate shit. I hate self promotions or anything like that. It's just so corny. Nothing. Thanks for having me, guys. My shout out is Skybrows. Check it out if you can. It is a level of simplicity that has to be commended. That you guys have built something really cool, and wish you all the best. And as soon as I have something that really is worthy of me showing, because I feel like I can't just post just anything, right? It has to be something really really crazy to be worthwhile. I will. It's just getting the data set, getting in that situation is going to be a little while before I find something that I think is worth it. But you'll see me sharing something. You'll see me putting some data through, which you probably don't see me putting. Like, you don't see users act like working on the platform, like uploading. Do you get any information like you? It's probably all locked up with all the the public safety stuff, right?
The what information?
Like Skybrowse. Like when I upload something to Skybrowse, you get any sort of notification that I'm uploading data up there?
No, only for our
Oh, yeah.
testing accounts because I'm the organization owner. So it's all based off of organization. So the owner gets to see all the users' data. But when you make a new account with Skybrowse, you are the owner. So
No. Okay.
I can't
Good.
see that data.
Unless
Because that's been,
unless Ted, you share it with him. If you upload your model and you share it with Bobby, then
right.
you'll have access to it.
Good, because if you could see, you'd see all the random things I'm throwing in there just to see, like, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? But it's just so
Okay.
easy to share, right? So it's so easy to add. Like, it's just such a simple little upload. I don't have to worry about like getting the pictures in a folder and organizing them, picking the good ones. I just a little clip up there. Yeah, it's really cool.
Thanks. And you have a different, social media strategy than me. I just whip up a 15-second video and blast it 3 times a week. And just endless Skybrows. But thanks for joining, Ted. Follow him on LinkedIn. He is very popular, and you can see his very cool 3D modeling posts all over. And thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.
Bye.